Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho in Washington. Sudan is teetering on the edge of total collapse nearly 1,000 days after the war erupted in Khartoum. The deadly rivalry between General Al Burhani of the Sudanese army and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, or commonly known as Hamiti, of the RSF, has turned the nation into a fragmented battlefield. The numbers are almost beyond comprehension. Estimates now suggest that at least 150,000 lives have been lost. 14 million people, nearly a third of the population, have been uprooted, while millions remain displaced internally. Over 4 million Sudanese have fled the country entirely, seeking refuge in Egypt, Chad, Uganda, South Sudan, and other countries. In Darfur, the recent fall of al-Fashar has triggered what monitors call a genocide, a slaughter of non-Arab communities, while famine officially strolls the Zamzam refugee camp. For more, we are joined by a Sudanese human rights activist and a student at Georgetown University, Guy Yosef. Guy, welcome to Different Perspectives.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me this morning.
It's been a pleasure to host you, and I've not talked to you in a long, long time. How have you been, man?
I have been great, as being following up the atrocities that have been taking place both all over Sudan, and particularly in Darfur, as you mentioned, in Bashar, Al Zamzam, and many other parts of the region in Darfur.
Okay, you set the stage for us. As the RSF tightens its grip on the West and the military retrenches itself in Port Sudan, the world is simply watching. We are spectators. What is going on the ground? Maybe set the stage for us.
Well, the current interrupted war is not by a surprise. War in Sudan has been happening since 1955. At the time, South Sudan was part of Sudan. And all this is because of the marginalization. People in the rural areas were denied services, the constitutional services that the government or the state is entitled to protect and provide to those civilians. Obviously, there is the saying that, when you get to the point that you cannot accept, struggle anymore, obviously, people resist, and that's exactly what happened. It happened, by the South Sudanese, and they fought for 21 years. This was because of the marginalization and just because of people who bears views that are different than Islamic kind of views. Then they have been targeted and called them as infidel and all of that. Um, but Sudan is a very diverse country. There are people, who believe in Islam. There are Christian. There are non-believers. There are Jewish. There are those who practice, other regional uh, beliefs. Um, but at the same time, these are Sudanese people. When
Mhm.
government fail to recognize and protect their rights, obviously resistance becomes normal, and that's what happened with South Sudan. And finally, we approached to the peace agreement in 2005, five in Nigeria. That was where the peace was signed. Um, by the late General Dr. John Garang.
Mm.
But because the government of the North, or the central government or military regime, which is dominated by Islamic Brotherhood kind of mentality, neglected that peace implementation, and which is the reason that brought to division of Sudan. Now we have South Sudan and Sudan. It is very systematic. When that South Sudan and the military regime or Islamic Brotherhood hood government turn to Darfur, and then they start a genocide, which took place in 2003. This did not end there. It really kind of expanded until today. Um and here I want to thank the previous administration of the U.S. Under George W. Bush, who brought to global attention that there was a genocide taking place in the region of Darfur. And again, then the international community did not really took this atrocity seriously. People have been killed, by huge numbers through Janjaweed. Now, the Janjaweed, there are always misinformation that people mix between the RSF and the Janjaweed. Janjaweed, these are Arab militia who have some connection with the military intelligence, wearing the uniform of the RSF and then killing civilian. Now they drag the RSF into that complex by getting the world to see, oh, okay, this is the RSF. But again, in investigation, basically, those are false allegation. Um, the RSF, it was a part or joined the Sudanese government, but again, the fact that the Sudanese government or the Islamic Brotherhood regime recognized the killing as normal thing.
Mm,
They order the RSF to kill innocent civilian, and we all watch. And so the military base attack that happened, and a lot of innocent civilians were killed. This was in Khartoum, in April.
mm,
The what brought to this division was the military order RSF to kill, and then RSF refused. So the RSF turned against the military because the ordering was inappropriate and was ordering that led to the causation of deaths of innocent civilian.
mm.
Um, that's what happened, and that's exactly what's happening right now. We have a new government that is the right government. If really people want to see Sudan change, that's the type of government I would suggest people listen to and follow. The Founding Alliance of Sudan. It's named TASIS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that insight. When I watch news, when I read about what's happening in Sudan, sometimes I can't comprehend what's going on. Uh, you have all sorts of regional players and ex internal players who are at the top of this thing, beyond the arms deals, the drones, the minerals, the oil. Uh, is there any diplomatic leverage left to protect the millions who are still trapped in Sudan?
The best option out of that was the proposal from Donald Trump administration, the president of the United States. That proposed disrecognizing the Sudanese government, which is absolutely not a government, but a group that has been controlled by Islamic mentality, and kind of dismantling that. That was the right approach because it ends the Islamic Brotherhood mentality into the country. And again, these guys or these people, they are designed today as a terrorist group, which absolutely they are. Um, they kind of, if you agree with them, then you are a good person. If you disagree with them and undermine their authority, then now you become a target. um, that being said, obviously to end this charade or the killing, obviously we have to start from the point that the US government proposed. That's the only thing in my view that will lead to complete change in Sudan. um, and also to not allow the military to have authority in the state policy making or creating laws that are are supposed to be laws that are supposed to be created by the civilian lead government. But again, the military institution, they worldwide are clear, they're just an institution that are belong to the state, but they shouldn't have any authority in making laws or policies. But in Sudan, it's opposite. In order to see complete change, that's the approach that we really want. Diplomatically speaking, I think a few days ago there was so-called prime minister who visited the UN Security Council. I participated in that event. And you can clearly see this is well organized proposal that they are trying to inject into mind of the international actors in order to listen to them, but to disregard what President Trump has proposed or the U.S. government, because they want to have their own policies on rules that they want everybody else to follow, but not willing um, to accept what the U.S. government proposed. But this is really not with a surprise because they are illegals. I would define them as such because no since 1989, there hasn't been any democratically elected government or the president. All this power that we are seeing today have been gained through military coup.
Mhm.
So these are not legitimate individuals to represent the country. So that being said, obviously it only makes sense that the 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 government or the prime minister to just completely disregard the proposal of the U.S. government.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How about those people who say, for example, since let me take you back to October, uh,
Mm,
after the fall of Al Fasher,
mm,
the RSF appears to have secured almost all of Darfur region.
mm.
Does SF still have any viable military path to reclaim that territory that has been taken over by RSF? Or we are
Uh,
looking at a de facto government? Because I remember sometime earlier this year, RSF went to Nairobi and created sort of a de facto government there.
and this is the government that I have been talking about because it's what we call it TASIS. TASIS is a body that does not exclude any voice of marginalized Sudanese. Is not an RSF government. RSF he joined this government as one of the parties of Sudan, right?
Mhm.
So they are party, but because they have or they hold military power, basically they are leading, and this is the body that historically or in the history of Sudan has been able to crumble the military regime that
Mhm.
has been you know in power for decades. That being said, the notion of as the government of Tasis is the RSF government is it's just like it's misleading and it's inaccurate. But again, there is a collective establishment of the new government, and this is the government that really will lead to change.
So, if I hear you correctly, you seem to suggest that that de facto government that was formed in Nairobi stands a better chance of leading Sudan to a better future.
Yes, because they propose or promote the democracy, rule of law, and human rights. These are something that that most Sudanese see as essential in Sudan. And through the course of history, these were the issues that most Sudanese have been willing to see happen in Sudan.
Interesting. How about uh, Sudan recently signed let me rephrase this. Sudan recently
Mm.
signed a pact between Port Sudan and Turkey. How does this involvement of Turkey, initially Turkey wasn't a major player, We're talking about Qatar, Egypt, and other countries, the United States, but now Qatar has injected itself into the mix. Does this change anything? Does this help the current regime in Port Sudan to accomplish certain things?
Anything that has any deal or agreement that has to do with the group of mafia in Port Sudan,
Mhm.
this is not an idea that would lead to change in Sudan. And Qatar is well-known state or country that supports Muslim Brotherhood type of government. If there is any agreement, it would not. I would not be surprised that this agreement, because of willing to support the Port Sudan group, or mafia, to expand the concept of Muslim Brotherhood in the Sudan, and that involves both Hamas leaders and Iran has affiliation, and Egypt. Egypt is a player, but Egypt plays only in its own interest as well as its national security. To be specific, I don't know if you watched like few days ago, the Egyptian ambassador at the UN Council spoke and said that Egypt is doing and will do everything possible to see Sudan change or peace in Sudan. But those are two contradicting concepts, because we want change in Sudan, but he's saying peace. Then it will happen only if the two parties agreed, and again, the Tasis government does not recognize the Port Sudan group as a legitimate government. They are just a group of people who violates the right of Sudanese civilian. That is that, and Egypt has never been there in support of the Sudanese people, except the the government, and the government, they are supporting this government because the so-called government of Sudan, they promote the idea that serve the Egyptian interests, as well as the advancement of the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology in the region. I have a friends who are living in Egypt, and I talk to them every day. So they're telling me the struggle that they are experiencing in Egypt, from racism to government does not really care about the right. But then here the Egyptian government talks to the international community that the Egypt is providing um, services to the Sudanese who are fleeing the region. These are all false and that are inaccurate. If people really want to know, talk to the Sudanese on the ground in Egypt. It's really, there is no such thing. Egypt has been always there, to just promote and protect its own national interest.
Guy, if I hear you correctly, you seem to say to have a softer tone towards RISF. But the big elephant in the room is that a lot of people have seen reports written by reputable organizations, including the United Nations and other people. They say, for example, the humanitarian crisis in some of those areas that have been captured, they are talking about genocide in Al Fasher. Uh, how do you square the two? Are you saying that these people who the rest of the world sees as bad guys, in some shape or form, they are good guys?
They look. I myself, I'm a genocide survivor. I exactly know how it looks. When somebody talks about genocide, I exactly know uh, how it looks. And if the UN really they are talking about this, they should be in a position to stop it. And again, I absolutely do have a soft tone towards the RSF, because at least they, me as a victim, I feel like they did what no party was able to do to the Islamic regime in Sudan, or now in Port Sudan. The UN's report, and the UN's and other organizations, they are allowed in the country or in Sudan through a mandate of the government. So the reporting or these organizations, some of them are allowed in the regions where um, where the government of Sudan wants them to be. So that being said, obviously it only makes sense to see, in my own perspective as a victim, because I saw a similar thing happen, and the genocide, it's real. It has been real for a very long time. But again, I think they should try to get their facts right, and also to investigate who's doing the killing. Yes, they accuse the RSF, but again, if there is thorough investigation, I'm beyond certain that most of the crime committers are are affiliated with the military intelligence persons. And again, as I said earlier, this is something that happened. But because people don't want the RSF to change Sudan, now they're accusing them to drag him into the global stage and accuse him as the body that really is committing the genocide. But there is an actual criminal who um, you would never see in any platform. His name is Musa Hilal. Musa Hilal is the person who committed the most heinous crime in the region of Darfur. Now, the support or some of the perpetrators who are committing this crime are either directly affiliated to his faction, or the other coordinated military intelligence with other Arab nomadic tribes in the region. These are the real criminals, but we
But wait
haven't
a
seen
minute, wait a minute. How about people who say that the government forces have absolutely no access to that region?
that.
Uh,
Look, please.
yeah, because there are reports out there. I've talked to people on the ground. I've also talked to journalists covering that story. They tell me that the military, SAF, has absolutely no access to that region. They have been cut off completely by RSF. So, who is committing those crimes if they are cut off?
So look, and sometimes also it depends to who you talk to. I'm not saying that there is no crime. There are crime, but again, there are tactical ways that is it's almost impossible to discover, because the government, yes, if the region is blocked, that the government has no access to it. It's if they're a government, they should, because they hold the title of being the country's authority. There is that. And the fact that the other Arab nomadic tribes are the main killers, it is true, but it's not RSF. There are other groups that you would never see them on the on any platform, and these are the groups that I have been mentioning: the Musa Hilal affiliated group, and there are the coordinated military intelligence officers and group that are doing the killing. There is, for example, the Al Barra. Al Barra is the new phenomenon that is absolutely promoting the idea of terrorism in the region, and this is something that's really that should be brought to attention in the global stage, and those who care about the safety and peace in the region, and complete elimination of the terrorist group, they should focus on stuff like that, specifically the government.
How about for people who argue that, for example, famine has been used as a weapon of war? You have a lot of people, let's say across the country, 21 million people are facing acute food insecurity. Then, of course, you have those people who are surrounded in that region of Darfur. They have no access to food. So who is to blame for that? Is it the RSF, or is it the Sudanese armed forces?
In this, everybody bears responsibility. The RSF allows the humanitarian aid to access the region, but again, you have the other group that are you have, for example, the SSLM faction of Mini Minawi that has been a virus in the case of the innocents in the region. The food would the aids are allowed in the region, but again, the faction of the Miniminawi, they then take away those aid in order to starve the civilians, and then now that issue kind of people misinterpret, and they're like, oh, RSF is controlling these areas, but they are not allowing food to arrive to civilians. And then but the fact that they don't see is the aids are being kind of hijacked by the other groups, specifically the Mini Minawi faction and the other factions such as GEM, Justice and Equality Movement, and you have the other guy Mustafa Tombori's faction. Also, these are all criminals, and they are historically known to portray the revolution of the people. They use the public name or the struggle of the Sudanese to just advance their own interest, which is to gain power through illegal activities. And I agree. Yes, the payment has been used to as a weapon to against the civilians. But again, it always requires us to have thorough investigation and accuse the person who truly commit this crime. And we cannot exclude the military regime. They are all behind this, either directly or indirectly.
Let me go back to the point that you made earlier. You talked about how you participated in this uh, event at the UN where Prime Minister Idris presented a peace plan recently at the UN. Take me back to that plan. What are some of the proposals? What are they? What are they calling for? Are they calling for a ceasefire? Are they calling on the RSF to withdraw? Is this a realistic roadmap, or is it a rejection of RSF and a sign of the a sign of this going beyond what everybody expects?
Kamal Idris is no, in my view, he's just a puppet for the military regime, and he's not a person that has the capability or knowledge enough to promote peace plan for Sudan. Absolutely not. But again, during this meeting, the UN Security Council meeting, his proposal were a clear signal that the military regime or him, quote unquote, government, uh, tend to dismantle or to recognize the peace plan that has been proposed by the U.S. government, and they are willing to not recognize that proposal, but want to establish a plan that serve just their own interest. And again, any plan that they do not have control of it, they consider illegal, and they tend not to recognize. But at the end of the people, the wiser people who really want to see peace in Sudan would agree with the proposal that the collective proposal by the U.S. government, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Those are the good step forward, which will lead us to establishing peace. But the proposal of Kamal Idris was, just out of line and doesn't want to see this proposal succeed because it doesn't serve their interests. And again, it is absolutely a rejection because the demand or things that he is proposing, no Sudanese who really want to see change in Sudan would agree with, because first of all, he's calling for dismantlement of the RSF, which is impossible. He's not going to achieve that, and he's willing to establish a peace plan that only them knows what's in it. And again, uh I would agree with the idea of ceasefire because the ceasefire uh um it serves life. It's the policy that would lead to having the innocent civilian of Sudan survive, even if it's for 1 day or hours. That we might agree on, but anything else is just it's just out of line, and really we don't even pay attention to those because it's just irrelevant.
In case you are just joining us, we are streaming live across all social media platforms, and our topic today is the war in Sudan. Nearly 1,000 days after the war erupted in Khartoum, the deadly rivalry between General al Burhani of the Sudanese army and Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo, or commonly known as Hamiti, of the RSF, has turned the nation into a fragmented battlefield. We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below and tell us what you think about the war in Sudan. My guest today is Guy Youssef, a Sudanese human rights activist and a student at Georgetown University who has been following the latest developments in his country, and he shares his own insights and observations. Let's go back to the point you made earlier, Guy. You talked about the Trump factor. President Trump has recently indicated that he's willing to do something powerful. And when he says powerful, he means it. You saw what he just did in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
Regarding Sudan, at the request of Saudi Arabia, how does the shift in US foreign policy towards pragmatism, uh, rather, would this be a practical thing to do or burden sharing? Does that change the leverage? Who is able to stop the fighting if maybe the United States gets into the mix?
Well, in my view, Trump's proposal are this is the president who does what he says, right? And um, in the case of Sudan, again, it goes back to the proposal that he made for something big that, as we call to see happen in Sudan. Uh, there's no way for us to know exactly what that plan. But again, if it's towards ending, which it is, ending the war in Sudan, it's exactly the proposal that he proposed. Now we want to come into practice to see and how to implement that. That is that. And again, the fact that Trump designed um, the Muslim Brotherhood government or Al Burhan government as a terrorist organization. It is true. It is true because the revolution that began in April did not really it has been hijacked by the Al Burhan regime. Now they don't want the change to take place in Sudan, and this is the type of government that has been in connection, providing safe haven former Al Qaeda leader in 1993, Haven, giving safe haven to this terrorist group. And also, you have the Hamas leaders who have been given safe haven in Sudan or provided Sudan as a safe haven for them to conduct their activities. Completely dismantling this type of regime, it is an absolute approach and a sign to victory, which is to change completely the Sudan. If this is the proposal that, if this is included in Trump's administration proposal, that would be a smiling move in seeing Sudan change. Uh, but again, that is simple as that. But if again, it's kind of difficult to know exactly what is in this big plan as President Trump called. But we will only wait and see if there is anything that's not right, and we will advocate and get his administration to just listen to us as civilian, because this government of Sudan has been in power for decades and nothing good came out of this regime. And it's just all catastrophe and killing and division of the country and all of that. So I think we're tired of it, and we're giving it all to really see our country change and be brought to its place in the global stage, as we're
I wanted to circle back to the point that you made earlier. You touched a little bit about the ethnic polarization, where we are seeing, for example, the Arab supremacy, the narrative of driving the narrative that is driving RSF recruitment, while the Sudan armed forces are increasingly relying on that popular resistance, or they have come up with these vigilantes called militias, who they want to fight on behalf of the government. Can this social fabric that we are seeing in Sudan uh, bring I see a possibility of this bringing some kind of ethnic targeting, maybe even a larger genocide as we saw like in Rwanda, for example. Do you see a possibility of that happening? Because both parties are trying to rally their bases based on religion and based on populism.
Look, Sudan has been ruled ideologically through the course of history, and the religion that has been used to divide Sudan was Islam, Muslims, and which is the government kind of include mix the politics with the rule of law and the policies of the states. Uh, Unless these are completely isolated from the kind of state policies and the rule of law and the constitution, unless these are completely isolated, there is no way that we will build the Sudan that we want. That's that. And as for the yes, there is uh, again, as I said, there is Sudan is a very diverse country. You have Muslims, you have again Arab, and there are Africans. But again, going back to the history of Sudan, we all know what Sudan really means, and that is that. But again, in the racial context, you can clearly see in the Sudanese armed forces, the most of the fighters or the people who are fighting in the front lines, they are most of them are from the marginalized region. But then you go from, when you go to the officers, and then the other ranking kind of, high level persons are all from non-marginalized areas.
Mhm.
That being said, obviously this tells you that the racial division is not only from it's not in the RSF. It's actually it's within the military regime. I know people from the same, and I really don't focus much on race or tribal affiliation, but I know people from my own social affiliation who are serving in the RSF. Why are these people serving in the RSF? That should be a question, because and they're serving there because they see what's really what RSF is doing, and the fact that the RSF is able to fight the military, it's what motivates them to join them, because they feel like they are forgotten, their families have been killed by the military, and now they see an opportunity leading to this. But again, there are recordings, right, in the social media that we see. Sometimes people are calling in the by the name of God, Allahu Akbar, and killing, or when they achieve something from it is very normal Sudanese. But again, in their heart, these are people knowing that, okay, we have waited for so long and nothing has been changed. Our case of our country has been neglected by the international community. It's up to us now to lead the change, and that's exactly what's happening. Um, and again, that's why the inclusion of all tribes and political organize should say parties now are joining the Altasis government. This is not for no reason. It is for a reason. And again, the Altasis government has established something that we have never seen in the Sudan, and I strongly believe the right kind of path that will get us to change. Uh, we can't really wait to see the end of this. Yeah.
Mhm. Let's talk about the displacement factor. Uh,
Mm.
as I pointed out earlier, a lot of Sudanese have left their country. You have like over 10 million internally displaced people. 4 million have fled and to neighboring countries, and so many other people are still on the move. Last year, I was in Uganda. I saw a lot of Sudanese refugees. You go to South Sudan, you go to Egypt, you go to Chad, you go to Ethiopia, Kenya. You have a lot of refugees from Sudan, right?
Yes.
Uh, Looking ahead, how can we stop that? How can either RSF that you're in favor of or the regime in Khartoum stop uh, this exodus of people? People are just being displaced all over the place.
Yeah, the displacement of Sudanese have been there for a while now. I should say decade, because the ever since the war began, the war began in South Sudan. South Sudanese were, leaving the region because to seek safety. Now they fled to either Eritrea, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, because those are the closest neighboring countries that they can access or would or are able to go to. Um, then when the war in South Sudan like came to an end, now Darfur began, and then the issues of those marginalized areas were uncovered because nobody was paying attention except the outsiders, specifically George Bush administration, as I mentioned earlier. That's when the people or the world start noticing that there was a genocide happening, and that was the reason why people fled their home countries. Uh, I was really saddened, but not surprised that the you would not see the government of Sudan speaking about the spread of the people fleeing their regions, and that was because they were coming from marginalized area, specifically Darfur and Nuba Mountain, Blue Nile, and other regions. Um, into Khartoum and again in other neighboring countries. Those who arrive in Khartoum, were denied access yet again by the state, and then now they had to leave again their country. Myself included, I was in. I'm a good example of that. Happened to left Sudan because I was denied access to education, healthcare, and anything, and I start to make my voice heard. But I was being arrested multiple times just because for having the voice or being able to speak on behalf of those who were marginalized by the government. Uh, we were speaking and advocating, but nobody believed that the killing and the displacement meant was real. But when the RSF signed an agreement with the government of Sudan or Al Bashir regime, they were allowed into the Khartoum, which is the capital city of the Sudan. Uh, they were living there, and then they were advocating for change, and that's how the Sudanese people elected or chose Dr. Abdullah Hamdouk to be the prime minister of Sudan. During his governing, uh, good things were about to happen, but the military uh, thought that the change in Sudan, or democratic change, and if the rule of law, justice, equality, all this has been is implemented in the Sudan, then the remaining of the military regime in power was undermined. That's how they disregarded this process, and they arrested the prime minister Abdullah Hamdouk for I think over a month. Um, but then when he was released, I believe he was threatened, and then he was forced to resign. He resigned, and then the Sudanese government or the Sudanese armed force SAF started, trying to spread the protesters from the military base in the capital Khartoum. They were faced by death and rape and all of these kind of heinous crimes. That's when the military ordered the RSF to intervene and kill civilians, because that was the mentality of the Muslim Brotherhood government, which is the Sudanese armed forces had in mind, kind of believing that allowing RSF in Sudan, that they are going to implement their betting. But then when they came to into practice, the RSF saw that was not good and illegal, and then they refused to kill Sudanese, but they rather turn on the military, and the fighting began. Now, the people or Sudanese who are in Khartoum, they never thought that this war will ever happen in Sudan, but it happened. And the same way that we run for our lives in Darfur, Blue Nile, Nuba Mountain, all the same things happen, or the same brutality happens in Khartoum, and that led to spread of the Sudanese. And the Sudanese by regions. Basically, there are countries that are closer to that specific region. Now they run and are able to enter to countries that are closer to them. To mention some, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Kenya, Uganda, and Egypt and Libya. Unfortunately, those who arrived in Libya were, experienced terrible stuff, from killing and kidney selling to others, and it was terrible journey. What I heard from a few people. But in order to stop all this, again, we need to dismantle the military regime, because we don't want any military regime to rule Sudan ever again. Not the Burhan, not the Kamal Idris, or anybody who bears beliefs or policies that are kind of uh, not new to us, and anybody who bears policies, political views that are, connected to old regime, old Sudan. This completely has to change.
But Hamid
It's
was part of that as well. Hamid was a right hand guy picked by our former president Al Bashir.
Yeah, because that's very true, and he Bashir picked him because he believed that this guy is gonna do his betting, everything he tells him that he will do, but not knowing that this person, his heart is more towards better Sudan, rather than doing or involving himself into wars that Sudan has experienced through over decades. So, and that's why I said, when they were ordered to kill innocent civilian in the military ground or base in the Khartoum, the RSF leader refused those orders, and then turned against the government, because he believed that was a killing that was not that did not have any justification.
But then how do you square that too? The reports that are coming out of Sudan, they say his forces, his troops, have killed more people than maybe the government in power.
So these allegations are based on who reports one, and then the other thing is also, again, as I mentioned earlier, that there are other coordinated military intelligence persons or group, and also there is a new phenomenon named Al Barra, which is promoting more terrorist activities and practices more. Uh, uh, Islamic mentality. That's why Al Qatar government is in support of them. When we say that there was an agreement between Qatari government and the Port Sudan government. Port Sudan's government is being used as a title, but in inside that agreement, the support goes to Al Barra group, because they are in support of the Islamic views, and want to rule Sudan based on Islamic principle or rules, and that's totally not what we are.
Uh,
Uh, uh,
we are almost out of time, but very briefly, let's talk about the healthcare system that has collapsed. With one third of the hospitals non-operational, cholera is spreading through all the states. Is there a humanitarian response capable of maybe averting this challenge that the country has?
The healthcare has collapsed, but it's reported now because it's collapsed in the areas that most people who are in a position to speak are able to experience this kind of collapse of the healthcare system. Uh, Even if there is any response from either international community or regional actors, I am not aware of. Uh, but yeah, I see a collapse that's happening. But again, this is because most of the positions and healthcare export do also plead for their lives, and that's why we're seeing this collapse. But if there is any response, either from the internal actors or international community, unless I'm not aware of. So yeah.
Finally, is there an end in sight? Do we see the thing stopping, or it's going to continue until nobody is left standing?
Based on my own analysis and views, there would be an end, but that end would come if the Sudan is completely changed, and the only way to change is to dismantle the military that has ruled Sudan for 3 decades or more, and nothing came out of it. And again, in order to see Sudan, really, we have to stick behind the Al Tasis government because it speaks for everyone who dreams to see Sudan change, and everybody who want to smell the fresh air of democracy, or things in that nature. Basically, they that's in my view, that's the only path. I know there are a lot of oppositions, but again, opposition, if we track the record, they haven't contributed anything good. And um, that's one of the ways to lead us to change. And one thing to mention, I'm very happy that actually most students are now, who those who are who are playing or have played to the country. You have South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya. This is good. I really enjoy it. Seeing the connection, because we the students will feel that we have been isolated from the rest of African countries, but the ideology that has been used to rule Sudan was more was to other non-African states or countries that see Sudan as African country, but joining a different group. So that means I think that's just something that I really want to share, because there are really good connections coming out of those who plead to Uganda, Kenya, and other African.
Well, on that note, Guy, thank you so much for your insight. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and I greatly appreciate your hostility. I really honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Guy Yusuf is a student at Georgetown University here in Washington, D.C. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to me, Paul Ndiho, on Substack, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify. We'll see you on the next episode of Different Perspectives. For now, so long from Washington.